Madam Speaker, every December we gather to present our budget to the nation. Our closeout of the passing year, our strategic vision for the one to come, and it's very easy for us to underestimate and underrate these addresses as merely procedural. But I've personally grown to appreciate this period and the intense preparation that goes into it as critical moments of reckoning. At a time when work and efforts of the offices that I lead are assessed to offer perspective that shapes and indeed sharpens our focus on the future. This year, we center people, progress, and under that bearing, I am choosing to contemplate on the future that we deserve as Cutitians and Nivisions. We are small states with large challenges. Our beautiful federation is classified globally as a small island developing state. And you listened rather to our mover of the bill saying that we're large ocean states because of the size of our ocean floor. But these four words, small island developing states, have very serious implications. On one hand, they translate into the privilege of savoring the beauty and abundance of our country, our fruit trees, our mountainside, our beaches, our rainforests, our natural flora and fauna, our food, our culture, and the simplicity of connection, of community, of family, the things that embody our Cutition and Nivision spirit. However, on the other hand, we, especially those of us entrusted to lead this federation, understand them to also mean climate threats, vulnerability, and inequality in some cases. Before our eyes, we are facing what we call the polycrisis. These words, when you take them together, it speaks to a triple planetary crisis: climate change, biodiversity loss, and plastic pollution. In its path, we see our treasured flora and fauna lost, our precious beaches and lands overtaken by worsening environmental degradation, and of course, our economic survival at peril through extreme weather events. This is not to paint a bleak picture or to incite fear, but really to outline a very critical dynamic of two realities being true at the same time. We are an island paradise, but we are threatened. We can be small, but still resilient. We must protect St. Kitts and Nevis. So my goal here today, Madam Speaker, is simple. I do not consider this to be a battle against things we cannot change, but rather evidence of our determination to persevere for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and for progress of our federation. To chip away at the seemingly impenetrable so that we can create our own upward path to survival. It is with this rumination, this sense of purpose that extends beyond us all, that I'm going to proceed to share the work of my ministries, because they did do some tremendous work this year. And not merely just to list, if I slow down, they're going to be 3 hours. Not merely to list successes and challenges or promises for the coming year, but to understand the connection, to underscore the impact, and to most importantly, recalibrate our compass as we journey to the future for progress and for people. So let's start with how we'll approach this presentation. 5 simple ways. We're going to talk about, as I just did, the geopolitics, the realities of St. Kitts and Nevis, stewardship, resilience, and integrated sustainability, resource mobilization and strategic partnerships, which I dare say we are getting very good at, environmental governance and the importance of a strong regulatory framework, the need for data, science, systems, planning, and foresight, and of course, CISA and the future that we deserve. So let's dig in. And let's start with land, the biggest but still one of the smallest areas. When we speak about sustainable land management, land access for us is a lifeline to ensuring empowerment. This undeniable fact motivated the introduction of our Lands Initiative in 2023, and it continues to be the driving force as we recognize our land resources and improve our management systems. To this end, the Ministry of Sustainable Development, we invested time, resources, and effort in hosting our weekly open house where the staff at the ministry's administration and surveys, lands and surveys, and they're right there sitting in their blue, odd color for today, but including myself, we sat, we interfaced with prospective landowners, and we had real and impactful conversations to be a source of assistance to assuage the concerns of the people who came to us. It was our goal to welcome citizens more directly into the process of land application, and in doing so, we hope to demystify the steps and promote transparency. Where there was once chaos and confusion, we prepared and presented clarity. But we could not have estimated the profound impact that this would have had on the emotional relief. Our efforts to bring that sense of clarity and ownership to landowners who, after years of mistreatment, deserved justice. But thank you to the staff for their continued support. So it has been 2 arduous years, but productive years, of actively improving land access, correcting past wrongs, and at the baseline, improving and investing in the lives of our people. So I'm very happy to share as it relates to land distribution and administration. This is what I consider to be very commendable for the ministry. We were able to service over 900 citizens with specifically 310 balance letters, 83 statement letters, 179 completion letters, 166 Crown Grant letters, 69 land resolution letters, 147 cadastral surveys, and adding to that 900 persons that we serve, another 531 lots distributed across all constituencies. This represents a total of 1,485 personal solutions for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and those persons in the blue, they did that. And they're continuing to do this because they have a mandate to ensure that up until Christmas, people are served with their land solutions. So let's thank them again for their work. Let's thank them again for their work. So if I was not very clear, the numbers I've just mentioned each represent persons served, represent an issue resolved, a progress provided, and in a small island developing state, striving for sustainable solutions for the future. This represents investments, insights, and of course, progress. Secure land tenure can lead to development. And when people are invested in through land access to settle, to build, to expand, the process for a successful delivery of other social services are facilitated. So we are very happy to do our part. Of course, I must speak about our land regularization program. This year's land regularization program and handover ceremonies were such a priority for me personally and for the Ministry of Sustainable Development. In the political realm, land and settlement are often touted as sensitive and inherently contentious topics. But when we peel back the layers, what remains at the core are people and human experiences that drive us. For some, the anticipation and the nervousness of the application process, and we have seen tears, as I've mentioned before. For others, the insecurity of landlessness and the long messages that are sent to our phones and every MP's phone about access to land, or peace and protection that's offered when they have that title in their hand. or the joy and pride of being able to build legacies that can tangibly be left behind to support and shelter loved ones for generations. In service to these realities, and despite the subterfuge and deception employed by the previous leadership in the form of blank COTs and unfulfilled promises, as the member for number 3 mentioned this morning, this administration has delivered on the provision of irrevocable land ownership to over 130 families across 3 constituencies. Lagreet Bastier, 68, New Amsterdam St. Paul's, 25, Upper Monkey Hill, 38. And this means dignity, empowerment, wealth creation, legal certainty, and the ability to advance. And that deserves another round of applause. Next year, we will continue with Upper Monkey Hill Phase 2, the Abbots and the Pasture. And we continue our land regularization activity through our urban housing development solutions. Madam Speaker, as it relates to our thrust towards supporting the expansion of housing development, we established the Urban Housing Task Force, and we have engaged in several strategic, political, and technical conversations and meetings to identify useful locations for housing interventions and land distribution in Greater Bastyr. So thankfully, we have been successful in this endeavor and have since identified areas that will support residential construction, especially for constituencies 2 and constituency 1. If you drive into Connery from the Keon side, you would take note that Rock and Dirt has vacated their former location following a mutually agreed land swap that makes viable space for housing construction now available for NHC homes. We are also looking at Admirals, who has also been engaged to relocate so that that space can be used soonest for housing construction. We're also looking at the old education building to ensure that we have housing solutions for constituency 2. Madam Speaker, this is called urban revitalization. This is called being strategic, having foresight, engaging with people, and most importantly, providing the housing solutions that are needed for secure lives. I also want to take a moment, however, to admit that while this year's housing completion boom makes me immensely proud, 2025 has been a challenging year for the Ministry of Sustainable Development in meeting the growing demands for electricity installation. As I say this, I recall our second budget member for number 1 as opposition, when everybody gave themselves an A+. And it was so unreal to me that ministers could be so unreal to think that everything you did was perfect. And I'm saying admittedly and transparently that with electricity installation, we had some challenges. Our offices experienced unexpected delays, which in turn negatively impacted timelines for new homeowners. For that, we sincerely regret these setbacks, and we are working assiduously with our ministerial partners and the Ministry of Finance in particular to ensure that these are remedied for 2026. So instead of an A+, this looks like an A. But we will do better. But I think it's important for me to give some context. I'm going to slow down here because I want everybody to understand this. If you look at our capital project's special land distribution initiative, totaling a sum of $5 million, the truth is you would notice that this does not begin to satisfy the cost of infrastructure and utilities for new developments. This year alone, we received 42 requests for electricity installation. They will cost us about 5 million EC for residential only. 642,000 for commercial, and about 2 million for water installation, a sum of over 7 million. Notwithstanding this cost, we are investing in people. What this is saying to us is that the Special Land Distribution Initiative program, which was established years ago to help persons access land, no longer pays for the services it offers. Buying land at $3 and $4 per square foot cannot pay for roads, it cannot pay for electricity, it cannot pay for water. But this is an investment that this government continues to make so that everyone can have access to land with infrastructure. And as I said, we will improve our service delivery next year. We recognize that investing in people and progress requires dedicated support for services. We are building stronger, safer, accessible communities and ensuring that there is the provision of low-income housing, doing what needs to be done to facilitate NHC in this process. Regardless of the challenges, we are working to install light, water, and as you heard with the minister, the representative from number 3, roads. Of course, it requires a full assessment of our designated projects so that they can be tailored to suit the full scope of the needs on the ground so that landowners can access and live in the communities that they want to. Take further our capital project, commercial infrastructure for about $1 million. A further assessment of our capital projects to support infrastructure for land clearing, it's about only AC 100,000, added to our $5 million for the special land initiative. It really doesn't come close to providing the support services needed, but we are working to make this happen. I'm very thankful that this year the ministry, thanks to a very supportive cabinet, has designated of these funds about EC $1.5 million specific to the NHC to support the continued housing construction. How many houses you said you had this year? MP, member for number 1?
320 plus 455 first-time home owners, 805.
805 homes, all requiring electricity installation, and we have dedicated funds specifically for this. Now, Madam Speaker, we aim to elevate the land initiative in the spirit of investing in people and progress. So we will expand the digitization of our land information services. And with the introduction of online platforms, we will initiate the transition away from outdated manual systems and convert our traditionally paper-based resources such as maps and deeds and tax records into secure, publicly accessible, searchable digital formats. We also will be reviewing our alien land holding license application to ensure ordered movements across the application, processing, and approval phases. In envisioning the future that we deserve, we have determined that accessing land information should no longer be notoriously complex or frustrating process, but rather one that is streamlined, easy to comprehend, and of course readily available to all who need it. Allow me now to transition to the circular economy. Madam Speaker, a symbiotic relationship must exist between ministries and offices that I manage. I recognize, I am not speaking about the Ministry of Sustainable Development and then the Ministry of Environment. They're married, they're together. We are one. Complementary and integrated. Increased access to land creates communities, which in turn necessitates effective waste management and circularity systems. I'm so happy to speak about the Solid Waste Management Corporation, which is now back on its feet again. Good management and leadership. It stands at the front line of waste management, and for the past few years has been doing the necessary groundwork to make the transformation a possibility. In keeping with Pillar 6 of our Sustainable Island State Agenda, the circular economy. This is demonstrated through the corporation's drive and its driven efforts rather to ingrain recycling, not as a temporary or fleeting practice, but as a culture across our federation, as you can see here on the screen. Evidence of this can be seen in our collaborative recycling drives, waste collection competitions with our champion students, pickup days and promotions. I am of the belief that these engagements and how our population has been so receptive to this, really, especially our youth, is a signal, a positive shift in our behavior and attitude towards waste, which will only continue to improve as we progress. I say this with confidence because 2025 brought major advancement in the corporation's circularity journey. For the first time ever, we saw the start of the national recycling project with the Republic of China Taiwan ICDF program, where SWMC, we were able to send off for the first time ever our first shipment of recyclables, with a significant breakthrough for our waste management capacity, and that deserves an applause. We have also introduced cardboard recycling as an official recyclable stream, beginning with large generators, an expansion that increases the type of materials that can be recovered and enhances our overall waste diversion strategy. Again, we see another noteworthy accomplishment in 2025, which is the upgrading of our recycling equipment. Last month, the corporation commissioned a new and more powerful baler under phase 2 of the recycling project. And this upgraded machine can compress plastic bottles, metal cans, aluminum cans, cardboard, and other materials into bales twice as heavy as those produced in our older baler. The results are higher productivity, stronger output, and far more efficient recycling operation. With this improved capacity, the corporation diverted approximately 195,000 pounds of recyclable material from the landfill this year, with plastics continuing to dominate the stream. This diversion means a reduction in landfill pressure and is a clear demonstration of what improved infrastructure and public participation can really achieve. For the future we deserve in 2026, we will bring even wider public access. The corporation will begin collecting cardboard from the public, giving households and small businesses additional opportunity to participate in recycling as we extend the support the mandate of investing in people and investing in progress. At the same time, recycling bins. This is a commitment that we made just recently. Recycling bins will be placed in every government office and every school, public and private, from early childhood to primary to secondary levels. These steps are meant to build daily habits, and we're moving beyond just the plastic recycling. We're looking to put paper recycling, composting, and other materials. And I think I'm going to have to tell everybody in here when to clap, because I want to say the environment ain't, that word that's on parliamentary, but I have to highlight the things that are important, right? So let me say that again. We, thanks to the Solid Waste Management Corporation and the good leadership, I see the GM just walked in, we are on our feet again, and next year we're going to make sure that every government office and every school, from preschool to primary school to CFBC, has multiple recycling bins in them. All right, because of the environment. So, this expansion of recycling access will also be supported by a greater emphasis on our household garbage management. While many homes received bins during the National Bin Distribution Program in 2020, we admit that not every household was touched. I certainly didn't receive one, and I think the member for number 3 didn't receive one either. So we recognize many new homes have been built since 2020, and the corporation, with our bilateral partners, will now complete and expand this residential bin program to ensure every household, especially the 800 new ones that have been built by NHC, has a proper bin for storage and collection of solid waste. We really do look forward to the support of our international partners on this, for this is over US $2 million investment in waste management, and that again is a sexy moment. Equally, the introduction of our scrap metal baler received through public-private partnership will allow the corporation to remove and process bulky metal waste, including derelict vehicles and white goods. Across the island, such items have become major environmental and public health concerns. They attract rodents, create mosquito breeding sites, disfigure communities, and contribute to lawlessness. So working in collaboration with the Department of Constituency Empowerment, the corporation has already identified and tagged over 500 derelict vehicles in communities across the island, and every single one will be removed. Again. And additionally, to further support cleaner communities and the mandate of investing in people and progress, the corporation with the ministry, and our new campaign, which I'll speak about much later, will also introduce a national bulk waste collection system in 2026. Before you clap, let me tell you what that is. This will give residents a reliable and proper system to dispose of bulky items such as mattresses, appliances, old furniture, and large household waste without having to store them in their backyards and wait for designated cleanup campaigns that we do annually, or the very good campaign that was done in Constituency 2. And I think that is one. So, many of you may wonder, why invest so heavily in waste? And the simple answer is that waste it's an unavoidable byproduct of just being here, of human existence. And that is why circularity and this efficient progress of recycling is so essential, because landfill operations remain one of the most challenging areas of the corporation's work. During the year, we saw 2 major fires occurring on the landfill, requiring extensive and expensive suppression efforts. These incidents highlight the need to divert more waste, especially green waste and compostable waste, from the landfill to reduce fire risk and improve overall stability. And don't forget that there is money in waste. Our efforts to recycle also offer an opportunity for innovative and creative minds to reimagine waste, to see the landfill as potential, as a trove for upcycling and money-making. Scrap metal, plastic pellets, composting materials, these are all items that can be reworked into alternative sources of revenue expansion and enterprise for small businesses beyond the traditional ones that we want to start up. So earlier this year, Madam Speaker, the United Nations celebrated International Day of Zero Waste under the theme Towards Zero Waste in Fashion and Textiles. And the Ministry of Environment et al. Was eager to participate, but with a unique twist on our awareness raising. We partnered with a brilliant young local designer, Mr. Zen Henderson, to create 6 costume designs. I wish the music, the audio would play for this, because it's so jiggy. Okay. They said no, but I think we should pause to watch it, because it's so impactful, and it still remains my most favorite public awareness campaign for environment. It's so fashionable, they're so creative, the styles are unique, and this went global. I share this to tell you, and yes, it went global.
Such a good minister.
This video was the highlight of our Hamburg Sustainability Conference partnership, and when we shared that, I think that's why we're going to be one of their strategic partners next year, but we'll get into that later. Madam Speaker, the ministry believes that we have a duty to foster the proverbial village, the spaces where everyone is supported, cared for, and included. To do so, our elderly people living with disabilities and vulnerable communities need specific attention. So this year, the Department of Constituency Empowerment was able to offer social support to social initiatives like Aspire and Lift, and collaborated with the Department of Aging and Disabilities et al. And the JNF Hospital to procure and distribute mobility assistive equipment that would be of vital aid to senior citizens and persons living with disabilities. And that's what we have to do, link the ministries and their support. So I'm happy to report that we facilitated deliveries to residents across St. Kitts, totaling 30 walkers, 30 wheelchairs, and 15 commodes. Yesterday, the Honourable Senator highlighted the need for more communities of care, and we will absolutely be supporting that mandate. In 2026, the Parks and Beaches, in collaboration with DCE and relevant line ministries, will make elderly yard cleanup exercises part of their monthly programming, and that too deserves an applause. We are even aiming to go a step further to explore digitizing community outreach through our ECHO campaign, which will make seeking assistance, logging needs, and following up much easier and more practical through digital engagement. Madam Speaker, investing in people and progress is an all hands on deck approach, and our ministry, my ministries in particular, we are ready to accept this challenge. Now let's move to biodiversity and conservation. Beautifying our communities goes hand in hand with biodiversity, or hand in glove with biodiversity protection. And the Department of Environment's extensive work to conserve and properly protect our natural resources is something that I have to mention. And I have to say right here that this goes from the deepest ocean to the stratosphere. And these aren't even my words. These are the words of the Executive Director of the United Nations Environmental Program, who admonished us to take charge, to remember that you can't stop at the coastline, you're going down in the ocean when you're talking about the environment, the whole land, all the trees, MP number 1, and of course, the air. So reflecting on this year, we observed areas that required our attention and some troubleshooting. The cutting of trees may seem like a very simple, mindless action for some, but the reality, it's not. And time again, I have lamented on the error of cutting trees without permission, without guidance, and without the intervention of the ministry, particularly the Department of Environment, Forestry Unit. They don't hear talk. Trees are not only the lungs of the atmosphere, they also provide fruit. You know, they have cultural significance and are often just shady places to rest and chat. And recently, there have been unfortunate instances of trees being harshly cut and removed when the instruction would have been to prune. Recognizing this ongoing disconnect, the ministry has since, and you know what? Let me be honest, because I usually am. Should I? I should be honest. I really beat up the MP, one of our MPs, for a tree that was cut in Challengers, only to find out that the taximen who were abusing about the cut tree in the circus, the tree was cut by my ministry. A shame? I said, Lord, the education really has to be expanded. And so to address that and really to apologize for that, because the instruction was pruning and it really turned into a cut, and we've seen two of those experiences in town. The Department of Environment has since represented a stringent tree cutting and pruning policy guideline, and I've read the document, and we are going to simplify that and share it with all ministries, parks and beaches, environment, and of course, if you feel like a tree needs to be pruned or cut, contact us and we will guide you. So we made a mistake too, Madam Speaker, but that ain't dropping us from the A. We're staying at a A right now, for now. Of course, the department will continue and expand its annual beach cleanup to include corporate support, because we believe that we have to welcome the private sector to partner not just as sponsors, but as equal partners in managing and cleaning the environment, and joining our students, who are our biggest champion, in adopting coastal spaces and beaches. So this year, not just the students, our intention is to reach out to the private sector to come out, take up a beach, especially just before the tourist season, and clean up. We look forward to seeing you collect, categorize, and catalog the waste that ends up on our beaches. I also have to touch very briefly the issue of illegal sand mining and the state of sand in St. Christopher. It won't last forever. If we overuse and overtake sand resources, at some point, there will be no more. And that is the reality we're facing in some of our popular sand mining zones, Beltet in Sandy Point, and of course in Connery and Keys. And we have to ask all those, and this goes down to homeowners people who are about to construct homes, truckers, contractors, and of course, the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Sustainable Development. We have to manage it. And so thankfully, the Development Control and Planning Board is conducting an assessment of where we are with our sand and where we can go. And we need you to bear this in mind. When the sand runs out in these approved mining areas, you cannot go to Frigate Bay. You can't go and mine. It's illegal, it's wrong, and you can be fined, or even fined heavily if you have yellow sand from Frigate Bay in your property, on your property, or near your property. Madam Speaker, I must also briefly state, as it relates to conservation and environmental heritage, that with the passing of our National Conservation and Environmental Management Act, the Ministry of Environment et al. Has now assumed custodianship of the UNESCO St. Mary's Biosphere Program. The SMBR joins the St. Christopher National Trust, housed within the Ministry of Sustainable Development, as an ally to the cause of expanding of our environmentalism, natural and cultural heritage. So environmental stewardship for us requires tiered consideration and action. And one such area of priority is ensuring that our natural heritage sites and cultural portfolios are preserved. We cannot invest in people and progress if landmarks and monuments of our past, the structures and spaces that literally inform who we are, where we came from, and are not properly conserved, managed, and respected and protected. My saying this may seem contradictory when we consider the current state of repairs of the National Trust, which we were working to have ready by the carnival season. Unfortunately, our intentions were not met with the intended time frame for the start of Carnival. But I really do trust that the revelers will extend their grace and understanding for the season, as we hope to finalize the renovation of the National Trust of the Old Treasury Building by mid-year 2026, so that it can resume its usual state of glory. Madam Speaker, the Environment is for Everyone campaign. This is a national environmental wellness movement. The course my ministries are aiming to chart is one that collectively underscores national environmental wellness as a movement and a public good that demands active participation and inspires personal responsibility. To this end, Constituency Empowerment conceptualized, which I'm very proud of them for, the Environment for Everyone campaign, which through engaging activities, awareness raising, public education, and amplified outreach will serve as a national call for every citizen to play a role in the creation of a truly sustainable island state. We piloted this effort as a pre-carnival cleanup, as a soft launch and precursor to our annual Christmas cleanup. This was done in collaboration with Parks and Beaches Unit, and as you can see here, they are cleaning the carnival routes, so revelers will be good and nobody has to call us and say this ain't clean and that ain't clean. We have foresight and we have done it before the season started. Madam Speaker, yes, good job to them. Madam Speaker, although we will never shy away from the cleanup campaign that is a big hit with communities, we are always willing to support and contribute to the services of environmental sanitation and community cleanliness. The truth is, we recognize that cleanups do not encourage the type of behavior change that is required for St. Kitts and Nevis to be clean all year. We have to grow as a people. We must expand into actions that are more proactive. We have to care about St. Kitts and Nevis, and we must understand that maintaining this land is a duty entrusted to all citizens. We must take pride in doing this and ensure that we have a country to call our own 20 years down the line. So we can't limit ourselves to cleanups, and I implore you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, really to join us in this shared journey of environmental wellness. The idea of sustainable development is created with people at its heart. It was introduced as a way of identifying the actions and gaps that threaten human peace and security. It means you have to invest in people, you have to invest in progress, and you have to invest using data. In 2025, we mapped the process of upscaling the use of the Department of Constituency Empowerment as a data collection power line tapped directly to the vein of the communities and the people that we serve. And we know that fieldwork can be exhausting, and to some persons you're like, oh, you again, why are you here? You're asking us the same question. But data collection, documentation, inquiry, and constituency outreach, these officers with their pens and their devices have been gathering critical information, seeking opinion. And so they have some of the rawest insights that we can get to help understand how to better serve our communities. This year, we completed over 52 household assessments to identify urgent housing and social support needs. We didn't just randomly choose people. We did 36 of these cases were submitted to our Vulnerable Household Repairs Assistance Project. And of course, we had a team who logged these cases. And we have invested over $950,000 of grant funding, not the consolidated fund, into supporting these households. Additionally, the department, through its capital project, offered direct financial support of over $837,000 to churches, to schools, to community groups, to different camps, to different interventions to help communities really reach their goals when they were struggling. This was an investment of over EC $1.78 million in people, in their projects, in communities, and in empowerment. And for that, let us pause and give the Constituency Empowerment an applause for the work that they have done. Now, let's get into resource mobilization, something that we are getting much better at. What makes our CISA, Sustainable Island State Agenda, as formidable and versatile as it is, it's the ability to raise funds. Not only is it a tool to transform local implementation of our national development planning framework, but it doubles as a beacon for international and regional partners who are very, very keen to invest. I want to talk about our Communities Climate Adaptation Facility project. Following our initial meeting with the Global Center for Climate Mobility at the 2024 SIDS conference in Antigua, the Federation has since deepened our mutual partnership through GCCM's advancing support to enable local institutes and communities to access funding. Towards this effort, we have mobilized US $300,000 of financing for community-led adaptation initiatives. The chosen recipients of this effort, and we have them here on the screen, some communities, St. Kitts and Nevis, have benefited from these projects. They have been selected by an objective, non-governmental process and will be furnished with grant funding to be used for the execution of their projects that enhance local resilience through ecosystem restoration, flood mitigation, climate-smart agriculture, livelihood building, and community training exercise. Added to this, another major resource mobilization milestone was the approval of our FAO GEF concept note of US $5 million for a project entitled Supporting Land Degradation Neutrality in St. Kitts and Nevis. And the Ministry of Environment et al. Is now working closely with FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization, on the full proposal development. Once approved, this investment will significantly support sustainable land management, biodiversity conservation, and resilience building through mitigation and land degradation across the Federation. And of course, the ministry has also received initial approval for US $200,000 grant proposal from Compete Caribbean Plus to support the operationalization of our newly passed National Conservation and Environment Management Act. This will assist us in fulfilling the overall aim of modernizing the national environmental governance, strengthening regulatory capacity, and supporting the effective implementation of CISA-related priorities and action plans. Madam Speaker, that's about $5.5 million in external partnership-based investments to complement the work of both ministries. These are the fruits of our robust international engagements, of our consultants, our advisors, and our participation to bring the money home. Ain't nobody clapping for that? Because it's important. I also want to mention very briefly, and I do apologize to our interpreter for my pace. Time is against me. I think I'm at like 45 minutes. Yeah, 46 minutes. So in March, we had our dialogues for the Caribbean, and we convened over the Green Climate Fund Regional Dialogue. We convened over 200 regional and international delegates through discussions. The message that stood out clearly for us was the importance of being at the table. And you've heard our member for number one and Prime Minister say this. If you ain't at the table, you're clearly on the menu. And I know saying it is sweet, but ain't nobody eating us for supper, not in the environmental space. So we hosted that dialogue. And one of the benefits was that the executive director of the Green Climate Fund was able to come right here to St. Kitts, hosted by the Minister of Energy and member for number 3, was taken to Nevis to the geothermal site. Totally impressed. He probably sang for her, I don't know. But she was impressed and confirmed that through our existing project that they're willing to invest and inject another US $17 million into the geothermal project. And of course, as the minister mentioned, the MP for number 3 mentioned this morning, the US $50 million Transwater project is advancing, and we're hoping that by the GCF board meeting of March 2026, or maybe October, but March, that we will have final approval. And Lord, it feels so good to say this after 2 years. We have been saying this for some time, and we are getting there to be able to say final approval by March, no later than October 2026, to have monies for this water project. Same for the Smart Agriculture Project that also generates another US $25 million. We are linking CISA, Madam Speaker, because these projects are responding directly to about 4 of the 7 pillars of progress that make up our Sustainable Island State agenda and are linked directly to our National Development Planning Framework. Importantly, I am also very happy to say, Madam Speaker, that these grant-funded initiatives ease the pressure from the national budget, allowing government to redirect scarce domestic resources to other underserved areas like education, like housing, and like road construction. And we are okay with this because we have mastered the art of resource mobilization. Mastered. Madam Speaker, addressing this challenge is one of the core objectives of our public sector investment program, where we are targeting donors and agencies for more resources for the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. The projects that we are also working on are closely aligned to our sustainable development goals. And I wish to use this opportunity to inform the Honourable House that in 2026, the Ministry of Sustainable Development will produce the nation's second voluntary national review outlining the progress towards achieving the United Nations 2030 agenda. We have budgeted in our capital funding $110,000 to ensure that this happen. Also, this second voluntary national review will incorporate the findings from the voluntary local review conducted in Nevis. This localized approach is the first of its kind in the Caribbean, and this will be presented at the high-level political forum. I know yesterday some members in the opposition did complain about partnership with Nevis, and I know that the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable name could have never called in that, because if it is one ministry that encourages partnership across the channel, it's our ministry, from our delegations to international convenings, from our work locally. Nevis is fully involved and incorporated, and that also deserves a round of applause. The National Adaptation Plan, also housed in the Ministry of Environment, will release another US $3 million and this too is funded by the Green Climate Fund and will be implemented over the next 3 years. It's going to embed climate adaptation into national development planning through legislative, governance, and institutional reforms, providing and really repositioning the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to attract further international support and deepen private sector engagement. Additionally, emerging dialogue from the Green Climate Regional Dialogue saw the need for the establishment of a US $10 million regional platform for catalyzing climate action. And a critical outcome of this platform is a regional energy green print, as the member for number 3 mentioned, in his role as chair of the CARICOM Forum of Ministers of Energy. We are contributing to the development of this green print, which gives St. Kitts and Nevis clear guidance in our renewable energy transformation journey. OECS, yes, thank you, OECS. Madam Speaker, climate governance and legislative action are the anchorage points that ground a truly sustainable island state. This year, we pursued a progressive and robust implementation agenda to ensure our political will was written into legally binding acts and matched with supporting regulatory and policy framework. You saw the passage of the National Conservation and Environmental Management Act, NCMA, the passage of our Architects Registration Act, and of course the signing of the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement. This is just a start for us, because next year we continue with the establishment of critical governance structures for climate, for sustainable development, and of course for our Community Beautification and Safety Act. I want to progress and take a moment to share the importance of making decisions based on science and data. And this is the heart of the Ministry of Sustainable Development. Every decision we made in constituency empowerment, in environment, in sustainable development, and across the government, because we are the heartbeat of the government, is based on evidence. It's based on data. It's based on decision making through information. We recognize that our data is showing that across parishes on each island, growth has been dynamic. On St. Kitts, for example, Trinity surged by 38%, St. Peter's by about 21%, and St. Anne by 13%. In Nevis, we saw notable gains in St. John's, 15%, in St. James, 12%, and in St. Thomas, 10%. And what does this data help us to inform in terms of population? It's where growth is happening for households. It's where land needs to be available. It's where houses need to be constructed. It's where roads need to be put in. Data. Household growth outpaced population growth up to 28%, up 28% to 21,677, reflecting new housing developments and changing family patterns. The average household size, Madam Speaker, fell from 2.8 to 2.4 persons, signaling a shift to smaller living units. This information is guiding our Urban Housing Task Force, our Land Administration Special Team, and it guides our Cabinet. The information is guiding our decision to invest in expanding the lots available in specific parishes. More households, more lots, smaller lots. And I've said this before. Gone are the days when we could give you half an acre, 24,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. People live alone, or rather in small, or where you can give yourself under false pretense. But we ain't getting into that because we don't care about them anymore. So we're working closely with NHC. We have been able to redesign and redesignate development lots to allow persons in the fastest growing constituencies to have access to a secure future through these resources. And of course, this requires interministerial partnership. It's the cog that helps the quality, the timeliness and comprehensiveness of our official statistics turn. While the Department of Statistics worked truthfully to navigate its restructuring, leading to some delays in our generation of regular statistics, we have maintained efficiency and we have made further commitment to be more efficient. To this end, we are continuing our investments in our $70,000 capital project for our visitor experience survey and a $120,000 capital investment project for our labor force survey. These will both allow us to aid the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Labor with critical information for decision making. I want to talk about CISA Connects. We disappeared for about 3 weeks and we came back and CISA Connects was a big thing. And that is because the constituency empowerment officers were out talking to people. Of course, for the last 3 years, we have been unyielding in the promotion of our sustainable island state agenda. And I sat with pride and joy and was like, oh, my work has become so much easier. Every minister who presented and the opposition, they talk about CISA and sustainable island state, and team, great job. This year, we decided that in order to proceed effectively, it was important for us to conduct a perception and awareness survey. So we have CISA Connects. We're gauging public understanding of CISA. Do you understand it? What does it mean to you? What do you want from it? And we have previously carried out soft data assessments through our various forum of engagement, etc. But right now, we are doing a deeper dive, a hardcore data assessment. This pilot exercise was undertaken with the collaboration of the Department of Statistics and the Department of Constituency Empowerment with in-person collection of data. So we're going to expand this in 2026 so that we better understand the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. This year has been fittingly productive also for the GIS department. Shortly, the GIS section will formalize the National Spatial Data Infrastructure and establish a centralized repository for national spatial data. I don't think the general public or even ministries understand how critical this unit is to all the work that they do, but I will share. We have an EC 200,000 or 75,000 US capital project which allows us to digitalize the work of the physical planning services. It is going to ensure that we can support all government ministries and departments so that they can access accurate, standardized, and interoperable spatial data. You want to know how many hospitals we have per, how many community centers we have per? Map the community centers, map roads which are going to flood. You want to find homes, you want to do the national addressing system, the GIS department. So we'll continue support of major projects, including the support to the post office in supporting the national addressing system integration, the land registry in terms of the parcel verification and land digitization program.
Honourable Member, you're at the 1 hour mark.
Good, just 1 hour to go, as I committed to everyone. Even though nobody vote for me, but I'm going to still talk for, I'm going to talk for 2 hours. They soon do it. NEMA and the National Disaster Management Project, Public Works Department, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Agriculture. And this is the work of a small but critical unit in helping us map our services. So we're moving forward with our National Physical Development Plan, and we are very clear on what every parcel of land in St. Kitts is designated for. Naturally, reviews are possible as increasing pressures are extended either on housing or industrial activity. But I must take a moment, Madam Speaker, to reiterate one challenge that we have faced that we're working together with the Ministry of Agriculture to correct. This context is particularly relevant when we consider the challenges experienced by increasing infringement of agricultural activity on lands designated for housing. Jointly, the Ministry of Agriculture and Sustainable Development agreed on the establishment of a joint technical committee to review current challenges and determine the best approach to providing relief for both competing resources. We have 3 challenging areas that I'm going to share transparently. We had Lemon Hill Residential. Just take a moment for us to look at the lots that are in red. These are potential housing lots that are occupied by one farmer. I cannot see, but it says approximately 14 acres of land being used in Lemon Hill, affecting 52 residential and 18 commercial areas. Wow. And then we have case 3, which was race course housing extension that had 5 farmers occupying about 10 acres. We have since moved them, and housing construction has begun in race course. And I want us to go to Cabbage Tree. If we could see the Cabbage Tree one, if we can't, but I'll say it. In Cabbage Tree, we also... Yes, I will. And all of these in consultation and partnership. These farmers received their letters. We engaged them, and we worked with the Ministry of Agriculture to relocate them to farming areas. In Racecourse in particular, all the inputs that were needed to help them relocate their farm, they were provided. And with partnership with dialogue, with engagement, with protecting livelihoods, we were able to successfully relocate the racecourse farmers in Newton Brown. We're going to work next on Lemon Hill and Cabbage Tree, because we know and we understand that the persons who are affected are potential homeowners who are ready to construct. And they are not able to do so because there's farming activity on land that they paid for to the Ministry of Sustainable Development. Dialogue, engagement, partnership, and we're doing it. So, Madam Speaker, it's also important for me to speak about the need for a green Bastille. The Urban Development and Resilience Unit will continue its work on vending spaces in Bastille. Oh, actually, before I move on to the Urban Development Unit, I want to address another challenge that we face in terms of construction infringement. We have seen that in the last Cabbage Tree, 300 lots affected, 300 potential homeowners, 300 potential contractors, which means about 1,500 potential workers. So we really need to solve this. But we have seen also in terms of our planning controls, an increase in infringement. I don't understand why people are getting so bold and bad. I wonder if they think it's because the Minister of Sustainable Development is a young female. Don't play, you know. We... From remind them where from. Now, we are recognizing that there are persons who are just constructing illegally, not asking for permission. When they get their stop orders, they're ripping them off, and they're just continuing. They're building rooms and fences that are building a room and a fence, disrupting their neighbors, and no matter what we do, they just continue. So we're going to take a little page out of the book of Nevis and shove them down. No, it's a problem. We want you to understand that the country is governed by rules and regulations, and they're there for our safety. You cannot just construct. You can't put your septic tank in somebody's land. You cannot put your fence on somebody's land. You cannot build too close to the fence. You cannot disrupt your neighbor. If we're going to create communities of care where we are together, where we are concerned, I almost said concerned citizens. My goodness. It's the blue in the audience. Right?
Not the movement. We want to be concerned citizens.
Right? So we need to have a little bit more sensitization and knowledge sharing about this to get us back on the same page. Now, another thing that we're seeing a challenge with is the popping up of vending all over Bastille and in the countryside. There are rules to vending. In some places, everybody just wants to put down a grill and just start to cook and sell. Wait, listen. I am not against small businesses and the informal sector. I am not against a man or woman making $1. We are here for your livelihoods, but we are also here for your health. We are also here for order. We are also here for homeowners who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a property and then have to live with a porta potty, a portable bathroom in front of their yard. That's wrong. And so if you intend to vend in public, you go to the Ministry of Health, you go to the Department of Physical Planning, you get the proper permissions, you are guided by what structure you can put, and you vend accordingly. Don't just pop up. Don't just pop up. And don't think that we aren't, like, I have passed some places and I call the office, what's going on with this zinc fence that's just going up here? Get rid of that. I was passing in the green lawn in Date Bay. What going on with this thing on this green lawn? This, like, our protected space. Move that. Right? In the aerodrome. Like, planning regulations are here for our protection. And so, as much as I am from number 6 and from, that was a problem and I had to deal with it. You cannot just put down any old thing on our green spaces and vend. Get permission, get it done properly, and get the right guidance. This is the same for the Independence Square. I need probably to get us to have some history lessons about the significance of the Independence Square, what it means to us culturally and historically as people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and why it is a problem, like a serious problem, for businesses around the area to decide that the Independence Square is the place for their garbage at the end of the day. It's a problem. And so we want to encourage you to invest in your own waste management systems for your businesses. We know that it is easy for you to go and just put down a table and sell in the Independence Square. It's ironic, but there is an urban development unit that gives you permission to be in the square and gives you guidelines on how to function. And since there is a serious garbage problem, you know what bothers me? People think that the Independence Square is just for them to just sell. No, it's a place of respite. It's a place where young couples go and talk, where people take lunch and talk. I've seen the talking. Have lunch.
I quoted you as well. I have
Here you go.
Their memories clearly.
A string band. Imagine that. So we want you to understand that we have to protect our green spaces, not just in Bastille, but all over the country. Now, we're going to invest through, again, the investment from the Solid Waste Management Corporation, back on its feet again, bins for the Independence Square. But we're doing this in partnership with tourism, urban development, the Urban Development Corporation, and we're going to have some businesses come on board with us because you need to own this. While we invest the resources, you invest the ownership and the behavior change. Now, if we're going to have a theme for tourism which says venture deeper, do you really want tourists to venture deeper into the country and we don't keep it clean? Should they drive out of Bastille and be like, what's going on here? No. And that is why we can't have people just popping up selling anything anywhere. In some places, you have a whole band session happening in green spaces. We're seeing people, we're in Sandy Point, fencing in our green spaces. We're seeing people just putting down crates, selling anything. You go deeper into the country, listen. People love our island because the entire island, St. Kitts and Nevis, is clean and it is part of the tourism product. There are some ports you go to, you just walk into the town and you leave because there's nothing else to see. We have strategically for years developed the entire federation, the entire countryside. It is part of the entire tourism product. And so the onus is on us as members of our community to keep the place clean. The end on that. So now I want to move again to our partnership for, let me make sure I'm not skipping any section. And I think I just did. I want to move closer to the end to CISA, sustainability and the future we deserve. And I want to take my time on this because of the contributions to this part of the section from our brilliant team of writers and researchers. The Sustainable Island State Agenda was introduced to us in 2023. And it's linked directly to our National Development Planning Framework to fully transition St. Kitts and Nevis to sustainability by 2040. At that time, when the Prime Minister said it, I was just like, yes, we're going to do it. And I went to the ministry and said, yes, we're going to do this. I really didn't appreciate then how it would evolve into this beautifully executed sustainability agenda that the world has agreed to support us on. So even though we might be saying CISA, sustainability, we want you to recognize that it is local. It is me, it is you, it is everything that we're doing together. It is from how we turn on the lights when we want to turn them on 24/7, when we want to turn on our water pipes, how we dispose of our waste, how we navigate our roadways, how we build our houses, when we go to the grocery, what we are buying, whether it's lettuce in the marvelous greenhouses in Nevis, or it is eggs from our chicks that we have at our hatchery. It's our beaches, our waterways, our green spaces, our ancestral landmarks. Every single thing about St. Kitts and Nevis is CISA. It's all of us. So our duty is to uplift and maintain this truth, because the international community, thanks to the work of this excellent team, they're on this train and they're not coming off. So we developed our core branding in 2025, and the branding is what really sent it global. People needed to see what CISA was, what it meant. We hosted the 3rd Global Sustainable Island Summit, where we brought over 300 regional and international partners and delegates to St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm slowing down because I really want to see this on the screen. Time is going. Okay, I shall proceed. I want them to see our GSIS. On the screen, I have a beautiful smile. Thank you so much. So, yes, GSIS. It was a big thing the biggest thing for St. Kitts and Nevis in a long time. And so it has to be highlighted. Even though time going, I'm going to do it still. 300 persons came to St. Kitts from East Africa, from the Pacific, from the Caribbean, from the EU, from the UK, because we had a dream. The Prime Minister had a dream for sustainability, and they came to see what it was about, and they can't stop giving us the support for this. So I am very proud of this moment. We had high-level strategic partnerships. We deepened cooperation with several international entities, including the Global Center for Climate Mobility, the Green Islands Foundation, and the support for geothermal. We enhanced our visibility, as I mentioned, with the Hamburg Intersustainability Conference, where our recycling project was a highlight. Of course, we have the EU SKN GTI partnership agreement, which we completed in the margins of COP30. The Federation was able to, this is Hamburg, and this is the Prime Minister's push to engage more deeply with Germany, and we did it. Prime Minister, check that for me, please. We did that. And we continued with our GTI partnership agreement, which will allow significant headway to be made in the Federation's renewable energy exploration in accordance with Pillar 1 energy transition. This is more funding again, I think, of USD 500,000 from Euroclima, more money in the kitty for environmental transition. And of course, our biggest partner and longest partner, our bestest friend, our bestie, really, the ROCT, the Republic of China, Taiwan, continues to be a major partner and champion of our Sustainable Island State agenda. Their assistance, their partnership, and their work, from recycling to partnership and support for our oceans mandate and our climate mandate, continues to ensure that we are seen and known globally. Of course, we've seen the advancing of skills development and academic cooperation with the Hamburg State University, the University of the West Indies, continuing its work with the Ministry of Environment. And, of course, as it relates to international engagement, as our Prime Minister said, the MP for number 8 said, if you are not at the table, you're on the menu. And let me tell you that there are many countries whose mission it is to ensure that small island developing states are eaten, that our special circumstances are no longer observed and agreed on, as was agreed globally by the Paris Agreement at COP15 in Paris. And that agreement said that we are small because of our open and vulnerable economies, that we should have direct funding that we should be considered for grant funding, that we should always be protected. And for the entire year, since a particular election, we have seen an aggression, a serious aggression to small island developing states, where language that is agreed by the United Nations, people don't want to acknowledge. You don't want to acknowledge that small states are vulnerable. You don't want to acknowledge that we deserve direct support, that there should be capacity transfer and technology transfer, and that you should work with us, that our contribution to climate change is negligible, but we bear the greatest cost. And when we show up in these international spaces and regional spaces, we show up to work, and we show up to say that this document must say small islands are particularly vulnerable, because it means when the executives sit and they review the outcome of our reporting, they're saying we have to make monies available for small states like St. Kitts and Nevis, and that's why we show up. And so for the UNEA 8, the United Nations Environmental Assembly, Madam Speaker, coming out of the 7th United Nations Environmental Assembly, I am proud to announce that St. Kitts and Nevis has been elected as Vice President of UNEA 8, positioning us at the helm of global environmental leadership and governance. I will serve alongside Minister colleague from Jamaica and other ministers, and we are going to ensure that in the highest environmental decision-making body on planet Earth, small islands have a voice, but more importantly, small St. Kitts, Liko Botwi Talawa, will be sitting there to decide how things go internationally. This could not be achieved without the work of an excellent team, and part of the team that's missing is the foreign affairs team that did all of the lobbying. I am telling you, to get to the table as a small island state, tough. I cannot shake enough hands, I cannot do enough diplomacy and side diplomacy and shuttle diplomacy, and I thank the tremendous effort of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in getting us to this point. And I'll tell you personally, I was so stressed. And I called the Prime Minister's office. I spoke to the PS of the Prime Minister's office, and I said, these countries want us to give up. They want us to move out of the way. Do not do that. You are staying right there. It is St. Kitts time, St. Kitts and Nevis, called Foreign Affairs. Why is it such a big deal for us to move out of the way for other countries? And I am happy to say that internationally, other countries came to us and said, no, you have done the work, St. Kitts and Nevis. You are proving that you are a voice to listen to in environment and climate, and we want you to serve. And that is not a one-off thing. That is strategic work for the past 4 years. And I'm happy to have the support of this team to get there. Madam Speaker, next year, you're going to see more from us for Sustainable Island State Agenda. We're going to enhance transparency and public engagement and buy-in with international visibility. Next year, we will be a strategic partner for the 2026 Hamburg Sustainability Conference, and we sincerely hope that our Prime Minister will feature at this conference because it is his time now to take over Germany. We really do look forward to setting the bar higher for sustainability. We are going to work closely with our partners at the University of the West Indies to ensure that there is a connection between education and what sustainability is for St. Kitts and Nevis. And of course, we are going to work closely with our partners to ensure that we have additional grant funding for sustainable development. Now, as I wind down, I'll take some water. Madam Speaker, the experience of Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica and what it did to Jamaica, to Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, it is going to happen again. And it is going to happen repeatedly. I am not trying to be an alarmist or a doomsday kind of person, but that is the truth. And you do not know. We saw the apocalyptic, we saw the scenes, the destruction, the loss, the hopelessness. I have spent nights looking at videos, and I am not easy to cry, and I bawl because I know people from Jamaica, and all of us know somebody from Jamaica. In fact, many times all of us are referred to as Jamaicans when you go overseas. Oh, you're from the islands, you're from Jamaica. What happened to them happened to Bahamas with Hurricane Dorian. It happened to Dominica. It happened to Antigua and Barbuda with Hurricane Maria and Hurricane Irma. And it happened last year to Grenada and the Grenadine Islands. So I am not trying to say that we will get a turn. I am saying we have to prepare for the inevitable. If the global community does not change its ways, these Category 5 hurricanes are going to be an annual thing. And it's just a matter of time. We don't want that. Knock on wood. Let me knock on wood. Everybody knock on wood. We don't want that. But this vision for sustainability is not a random goal. We're not doing it because it sounds good. We're doing it because we have to be resilient. We're doing it because we cannot prevent storms. We can't turn a storm. We can't change their trajectory. We can only prepare. And we must ensure that in our preparation, we are resilient, that our grid is resilient. Do you know how much money it's going to take Jamaica to move their grid underground? They cannot afford it. Energy resilience and infrastructure resilience for energy has to now be seen as a public good. Water generation, ensuring that food is available. These are things that are part of resilient livelihoods. And how are we going to do this, Madam Speaker? We have to invest in people, and we have to invest in progress. And oftentimes it doesn't seem, that parliamentary word, that unparliamentary word. Madam Speaker, we really have to have a talk about that word, because that is my word for the environment.
Correct. That's why I don't believe on parliament. It is handable.
She has ruled. So we need stronger, climate resilient homes, access to land to construct homes. We need increased salaries, as we've done. We need pension. We needed and we gave the pensions for GAE. Increased lifetime support for insurance. Cleaner communities. Roads. No child left behind with medical emergencies. No pregnant mother left behind with medical emergencies. And I can go on and on about building resilience. And our next step is microinsurance. And what is this going to do? If a disaster strikes, immediate access to cash in hand in your bank account for your repairs. You saw the videos of hopelessness and helplessness in Jamaica, where people lost everything and didn't know how to restart. And I asked my colleagues, well, what's really going to happen? Who's going to control what? And we want people to be resilient. And so the Prime Minister has commissioned this with our international partners, and they are actively working towards this, building resilience. Progress, and that's the investment in people. And the investment in progress is stronger regulation for environmental protection, protecting our natural coastline, maintaining cleaner beaches, investments in just energy transition, securing water through renewable energy powered systems, building wider roads, building climate smart homes. Our government has been intentional, it has been strategic, disciplined in our investments for the betterment of our people, for planet, for prosperity. It is my hope, as I conclude this very short address, that we can appreciate such work does not happen as you think. I know people think, send the money, do this, do that. But resilience requires foresight, it requires discipline, and it requires seriousness with investing in people. I pause here to say that the work, the human work, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the sickness, the late hours, the anxiety of our team here, the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Environment, Parks and Beaches, and Solid Waste, has brought us to this point. It has been a memorable and impactful year. A high impact year rather, and 2026 will meet us with laser focus. We have laid the groundwork, identified issues, engaged the public, collected the data, made the assessments, fostered the partnerships, channeled the resources. We are properly girded from every challenge, every success, with intimate knowledge of what is necessary to lead us through this transformation. However, to avoid a Hurricane Melissa, to avoid total destruction, we have to invest. Allow me to summarize the extent of our international commitments and investments in people and progress. And this is not monies received from the Consolidated Fund. Madam Speaker.
Honourable Senator, you have exhausted your allotted time.
I'd like to ask this Honourable House for additional time.
The question is that the Honourable Member be permitted to speak for a further period not exceeding 30 minutes. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Honourable Member, you may proceed.
Thank you so much to this Honourable House. So allow me to summarize the extent of our international commitments and investments in people and progress. And as I mentioned, this is not money received from the Consolidated Fund, but for reference. If you look in our capital project, it's not necessary, it's okay. The government, the combined budget from the 2026 budget to both ministries for capital projects specifically, for the Ministry of Sustainable Development, EC 10,226,000 plus. For Environment, EC 7,999,000. A total of EC $18,226,638, or US, I have the wrong US number, right? But EC 18 million. However, we have secured through the work of our advisors, our mission trips, our bilateral partners, and our continued rise as a leading voice on sustainability and environment, for land, US 552,000, for waste, US 2 million, for communities, US 361,000, for climate finance, US 5.5 million, for water and agriculture, US 75 million, for adaptation, US 15 million, for national adaptation planning, US 3 million, for the GIS department, US $650,000, for Sustainable Island State Agenda, US $361,000, and even for the ozone, as I said, from the deep sea to the stratosphere, US $180,000. A total of US $12,604, or EC $34 million. Madam Speaker, I have taken out of this amount the US $75 million for the Transwater project. So minus that, we have US 12 million or EC 34 million. Note, our capital allocation was EC 18 million. Our fundraising is AC 34 million for the next year. This is the result of this dream team right here. Well, not everybody here. That works with me to support the mandate of this government for sustainability. We are and we will continue to be the heart central to this government for planning, for foresight, for investment. We completely understand the agenda and the mission. We are focused on resilience, on sustainability, on a sustainable future, and this mandate for 2026 will continue and it will strengthen. So as I close, Prime Minister, I feel like the Ministry of Sustainable Development Environment must never go back to a Prime Minister and must always be with another minister who has the time for this big, important ministry. But so, as I close, let me remind you that CISA, it's you, it's me, it's all of we. The ministry, the government cannot go this journey alone. So I am very grateful for the aligned work and partnership of the entire government and all our ministerial partners, from the land registry and legal and everybody who helped us with the squatter regularization program, to all our NGO partners, our private sector and our private citizen collaborators, our advisors, our consultants, our partners, from Hamburg to Kenya, to the Republic of China, Taiwan, to Jamaica, to New York, to Antigua and Barbuda. And I'm going to name some names because internationally people are helping St. Kitts and Nevis. Amma and Eddie in Hamburg, Ambassador William and Eustace Wallace in New York, Mr. Woods and Mr. Satney, to Hyan, Kamal and Sarah, Ms. Ratton and Creos Freeman, Mr. Lincoln Maynard, Victoria Lawrence, Professor Donovan Campbell, Dr. Devon Gardner, Dr. Tamu Petra Brown at CFBC, Mr. Ellis Hazel, Dr. Asim Martin, Zen Henderson, Chameleon. Team, listen, just in case I forget somebody, you have to call the name. Chameleon Media, Rennie Gillard, G Squared, Keel Y, J Black Productions, from UNDP, FAO, UNOPS, GCCM, UNEA, GTI, the ESCAZO team. From Dietbe Primary to CFBC, to UE, to Hamburg University. The entire staff at the Ministries of Sustainable Development, Environment, Climate Action, Constituency Empowerment, Parks and Beaches, Solid Waste Management Corporation, led by PS Sherlita Dorr Tyson, PS Colencia Levine, and General Manager Nelvin Maynard. Have I forgotten any names? Our ultra-supportive cabinet, led by our super meticulous and surgical Prime Minister, who is with you on projects from conception to execution, to my family, my community of friends and advisors and supporters who have consulted on everything from how I pronounce words to how I shake hands convincingly. I am surrounded by a powerful team, and that is why we deserve an A+. What do you think? Thank you. A double plus. Double plus. You hear that, Prime Minister? A double plus. And so, the saying remains true. It is not the pace of your journey, for you can go very fast if you go alone. It's the distance that we can cover when we go together. So let 2026 be the year for doing more together, for advancing progress through participation, for investing in people together. On that note, I want to close and wish us all a prosperous, safe, and clean, and healthy Carnival season, and a happy new year when it comes. Thank you.